The trader you become. Every trading mistake has a beginning. A trader moves a stop, takes one more trade, enters a random setup, re-enters immediately after a loss, trades outside the planned window. And at the end of the day, the trader looks back and says, "I broke my rules again." So the mistake goes into the journal. Moved stop, overtraded, revenge traded, ignored the plan, and underneath it, the trader writes the same reminder. Follow the rules. Be more disciplined. Don't do it again. But perhaps the trader is studying the wrong moment, because the mistake may not have begun when the stop was moved. It may have begun a few seconds earlier, when the trader thought, it just needs a little more room. The revenge trade may not have begun when the order was placed. It may have begun with, "I can make it back." Overtrading may not have begun with the fifth trade. It may have begun with, maybe one more. The rule break is visible, but the decision that created it often begins earlier, quietly, with a familiar thought, a familiar feeling, a familiar negotiation. Perhaps traders shouldn't only study the moment the rule was broken. Perhaps they should study the moment the rule first became negotiable. Because every trading mistake has a beginning. And the earlier a trader learns to recognize it, the more opportunity there is to choose differently. Chapter 1. The mistake is the end of the pattern. Most traders review the action. The stop was moved. The random trade was entered. The position size was increased. The trading window was ignored. The revenge trade was taken. Those actions are easy to see. They appear in the trading history. They appear on the chart. They appear in the P&L. But the action may actually be the last part of the pattern. Before the stop moves, the trader begins feeling uncomfortable about the loss. Before the random entry, the trader notices the market moving without them. Before the revenge trade, the previous loss is still emotionally active. Before the extra trade, the trader begins feeling that the day wasn't enough. Before trading outside the planned window, the trader begins building a reason why today should be an exception. The action happens last. The mental pattern begins first, and if a trader only studies the action, the trader may be arriving too late. I moved my stop again. Yes? But what happened immediately before that? What was the first thought? What feeling appeared? What sentence began the negotiation? When did the original plan stop feeling final and start feeling open for discussion? Those questions take the trader closer to the beginning. Because perhaps the goal isn't only to become better at recognizing mistakes. Perhaps the goal is to become better at recognizing mistakes forming. Chapter 2. Every trader has decision points. Many traders believe discipline must be maintained every second of the trading day. Stay focused, stay calm, stay disciplined, stay emotionally controlled for hours. That can feel exhausting, but perhaps emotional decision-making doesn't begin every second of the day. Perhaps each trader has a small number of predictable decision points, moments where the process becomes vulnerable. For one trader, it's when the stop is about to be hit. For another, it's immediately after a loss. For another, it's after a large win. For another, it's when the market starts moving quickly without them. For another, it's near the end of the trading window. For another, it's after one good trade when the mind begins asking for one more. These are decision points. Small moments where the trader's next action can change the direction of the entire session. A trader may follow the process perfectly for 2 hours. Then the stop approaches. One decision point. Should I give it more room? The trader may have waited patiently all morning. Then a large candle appears, one decision point. Should I just get in? The trader may finish a profitable trade, then see what looks like continuation, one decision point. Maybe one more. The entire trading day doesn't need to be dangerous. Sometimes, the trader only needs to become familiar with a handful of moments, because those are the moments the rules were built to protect. Chapter 3. Know your doors. Every trader may have a handful of doors through which emotional decision-making usually enters. The doors are different for every trader. One trader's door may be adding to a losing position. Another trader's door may be increasing size after a win. Another may chase missed moves. Another may remove stops. Another may continue trading after reaching the daily goal. The trader doesn't need to memorize every possible trading mistake. The trader needs to know their doors. Where does the process usually become vulnerable? When does negotiation usually begin? What situations repeatedly produce the same emotional decisions? Perhaps a trader reviews 6 months of trading and notices something. Most serious mistakes came from only 5 situations, or 6, the same doors, again and again and again. That's valuable information, because now the trader's job becomes simpler, not, I need perfect discipline all day, but I need to recognize when I'm standing at one of my doors. The market starts moving quickly. There it is. The stop approaches. There it is. A loss closes, and the trader immediately begins searching for another entry. There it is. The planned trading window ends, and the trader begins creating an exception. There it is. The trader finishes a good trade and hears, one more. There it is. Recognition doesn't guarantee the trader will make the right decision. Not yet. But something important has changed. The pattern is no longer completely invisible. Chapter 4. Learn the first sentence. Emotional trading patterns often have language. A first sentence? Just this once. This trade is different. It needs more room. I don't want to take this loss. I can make it back. This looks good enough. Maybe one more. Today is a trend day. The exact sentence will be different for every trader, but over time, the same language often returns. That's why traders can learn to recognize mental patterns. In the same way a trader becomes familiar with patterns on a chart, a trader can become familiar with patterns in decision-making. At first, the sentence sounds convincing. The stop needs more room. The trader becomes absorbed in the argument. The market may turn. The setup may still work. The stop may be too tight. The mind begins collecting evidence. But after hearing the same sentence before 20 previous stop violations, the trader may begin to hear it differently. The stop needs more room. And something inside the trader recognizes it. There it is. Not, I'm a terrible trader. Not, I can't believe I'm thinking this again. Simply, I know this pattern. That is the beginning of a completely different level of awareness, because the trader is no longer meeting the thought for the first time. The trader has studied it, recognized it, seen where it often leads. The thought may still be convincing, the emotion may still be present, but the pattern is becoming familiar, and familiar patterns can be recognized earlier. Chapter 5. Awareness has a timeline. A trader doesn't usually go from repeating the same mistake for years to suddenly recognizing it before it happens. Awareness develops gradually. At first, the trader notices after the session ends. The trading history is reviewed, and the trader thinks, I did it again. The stop was moved. The extra trade was taken. The random setup was entered. The trader sees the mistake, but only after it is complete. Later, something changes. The trader begins noticing during the mistake. The stop is being moved, and the trader knows, this isn't my plan. Another trade is being entered, and somewhere in the mind, the trader knows, I'm overtrading, but the rule is still broken, but awareness has moved closer to the decision. Then, the trader begins noticing before the action. The hand hasn't moved the stop yet, but the thought appears. Maybe I should give it more room. The order hasn't been placed yet, but the trader notices the urge to enter. The trading window hasn't been broken yet, but the mind begins creating an exception. And eventually, the trader may begin recognizing the very beginning of the pattern. The first sentence, the first feeling, the first moment the rule becomes negotiable. Awareness has a timeline. After, during, before, beginning. The goal is not to suddenly become perfect. The goal is to train awareness to arrive earlier. Because the earlier the trader recognizes the pattern, the more space exists between the pattern and the decision. Chapter 6. Stop waiting until the rule is broken. Many traders measure discipline by the final outcome. Did the trader move the stop? Yes or no? Did the trader overtrade? Yes or no? Did the trader revenge trade? Yes or no? Did the trader follow the trading window? Yes or no? Those questions matter. Rules still matter. Execution still matters. But if a trader is trying to understand a repeated emotional pattern, perhaps there is another question worth asking. When did the negotiation begin? Imagine two traders move their stops. The first trader moves the stop automatically. The stop is changed. The trade continues. Only later does the trader realize what happened. The second trader hears, the stop needs more room. The trader notices the thought, recognizes the familiar argument, knows the original plan is being negotiated, struggles, and still moves the stop. The final rule result is the same. Both traders moved the stop. But are they at exactly the same stage of development? Perhaps not. The second trader has begun seeing the decision form. That doesn't excuse the mistake, but it creates something the first trader doesn't yet have. A point of intervention. Today, the trader may notice and still move the stop. Later, the trader may notice, hesitate, argue, and still move it. Then one day, the trader notices the same sentence. It needs more room. And thinks, there it is. The stop stays where it is. The visible change happened that day, but the training may have begun much earlier. The first time, the trader learned to see the negotiation. Chapter 7. One practice. Perhaps traders make this work too complicated. A new journal, a new checklist, 10 new rules, a promise to be more disciplined, a promise to never make the same mistake again. But what if the trader simplified the practice? For one trading session, there is only one goal. Notice every moment negotiation begins. That's it. The trader doesn't have to force the thought away. The trader doesn't have to argue with it. The trader doesn't have to prove anything. Notice it. Just this once. There it is. The stop needs more room. There it is. This setup is close enough. There it is. Maybe one more trade. There it is. I can make it back. There it is. I'm still inside my maximum number of trades. There it is. The trader becomes interested in the pattern. What situation triggered it? What sentence appeared? What emotion was underneath it? What rules suddenly became open for discussion? The goal is not to create a perfectly quiet mind. The goal is to become familiar with the trader's own negotiation process, because a trader cannot interrupt a pattern that remains invisible. First, the trader has to see it. Chapter 8, Count Recognition, Not Only Mistakes. At the end of the day, most traders count outcomes: winning trades, losing trades, rules followed, rules broken. But during this stage of training, perhaps the trader can measure something else. How many times today did the trader catch the beginning of a negotiation? Maybe the answer is 1. The trader heard maybe one more trade and recognized it. Maybe the answer is 3. The trader noticed the urge to chase, noticed the desire to move a stop, and noticed the mind trying to justify trading outside the planned window. Perhaps the trader still made one of those mistakes. Again, recognition does not erase the mistake, but now there is information. The trader can write, Negotiation 1. After a missed move. First thought, I'm going to miss the next leg. Negotiation 2. Stop approaching. First thought, this trade needs more room. Negotiation 3. First trade completed quickly. First thought, I barely traded today. Now the journal is no longer only a record of broken rules. It is becoming a map of decision-making. The trader begins seeing where emotional decisions usually begin: the situations, the language, the timing, the emotional state. And after enough observation, patterns become difficult to ignore. The trader may realize, every time I finish a fast, profitable trade, I begin searching for another opportunity immediately. Or, every time my stop gets close, I start questioning the original setup. Or, every time I miss the first move, the next setup suddenly looks better than it really is. Or, every time I approach the end of my trading window, I start looking for reasons why today should be different. This is no longer a vague discipline problem. The trader is identifying a repeatable mental pattern, and repeatable patterns can be studied. Chapter 9. Study the mind like a chart. Traders spend years learning pattern recognition. At first, a chart may look like random movement, candles, lines, noise, but with enough study, the trader begins noticing structure. Certain conditions begin to look familiar. Momentum changes. Patterns develop. Context matters. The experienced trader may recognize the early structure of a move before the entire move is complete. Perhaps traders can learn to study their own decision-making in the same way. At first, emotional mistakes may seem random. I don't know why I moved my stop. For some reason, I took another trade. I don't know what happened. I just started overtrading. But perhaps the behavior isn't as random as it feels. Look closer. A loss happened. Frustration appeared. The trader stayed at the screen. The eyes immediately began searching for another entry. Then came the thought, I can make it back. Urgency increased. The order was placed. That is a pattern. Or a profitable trade ended quickly. Excitement remained. The trader thought, that was too fast. Then, there may be more. The trader continued watching. A mediocre setup began to look attractive. The order was placed. Another pattern. The trader has been trained to ask, what pattern is forming on the chart? Perhaps the trader should also learn to ask, what pattern is forming in me? Because emotional trading may not always arrive without warning. Sometimes it has structure, a trigger, a feeling, a familiar sentence, a negotiation. Then an action. And the more often the trader studies that sequence, the earlier it can be recognized. Chapter 10. The emotional trader needs reminders. A calm trader may understand every rule perfectly. Before the session, the logic is obvious. Respect the stop. Wait for the setup. Don't chase. Finish on time. Don't revenge trade. The trader knows, but emotional moments change what receives attention. When the stop is approaching, the trader's attention moves toward avoiding the loss. When the market is running, attention moves toward missing the opportunity. After a loss, attention may move toward making the money back. After a fast win, attention may move toward finding more. The rules didn't disappear. The trader didn't suddenly lose all trading knowledge, but the emotional state changed what felt most important. This is why reminders matter. Not because the trader is unintelligent, not because the rules haven't been learned, but because the trader needs to recognize the specific moments when attention begins moving away from the process. The reminder doesn't need to be complicated. Perhaps it is simply, am I negotiating? Or, there it is. Or, what pattern is forming in me? The purpose of the reminder is not to make the decision for the trader. The purpose is to wake up the part of the trader that remembers there is a decision to make. Because emotional decision-making becomes most powerful when it feels automatic. Recognition interrupts the automatic sequence, even for a moment. And sometimes, a moment is enough to create a different choice. Chapter 11. Build a map of decision points. Every trader's patterns are different. That's why a trader may need to build a personal map. Not a map of every mistake that could possibly happen. A map of the moments where their decision-making repeatedly becomes vulnerable. Perhaps there are 5, perhaps 6, perhaps only 3. For one trader, the decision points may be before moving a stop, before entering a random setup, before taking one more trade, before trading outside the planned window, before immediately re-entering, before revenge trading. These are not 6 mistakes the trader needs to fear all day. They are 6 situations the trader needs to learn to recognize. That's a very different task. Instead of thinking, I need to be disciplined for the entire session, the trader can think, I need to recognize my decision points. The stop approaches. Decision point. A trade closes, and the trader immediately wants another. Decision point. A loss creates urgency. Decision point. The trading window ends, and the market suddenly looks attractive. Decision point. The market moves quickly, and a random setup begins to look good enough. Decision point. These moments become familiar, and over time, the trader may begin recognizing the situation before the negotiation even becomes convincing. I know what usually happens here. That is pattern recognition. The trader is learning the structure of their own emotional decision-making. Chapter 12. Find the beginning. Once a trader knows the decision points, the next question is simple. What does the beginning look like? Perhaps the trader writes down 3 things: the situation, the first sentence, the usual action. For example, situation. The stop is approaching. First sentence, it needs more room. Usual action, move the stop. Or situation, a losing trade just ended. First sentence, I can make it back. Usual action, immediate re-entry. Or situation, a profitable trade ended quickly. First sentence, I barely traded today. Usual action, search for another trade. Or situation, the market begins moving without the trader. First sentence, I'm going to miss it. Usual action, random entry. Now the trader can see the sequence: situation, sentence, action. The action is the mistake everyone sees, but the trader is learning to recognize what came before it. And perhaps the earliest useful warning isn't the action, it's the sentence, because once the trader knows the first sentence, the trader may begin hearing it in real time. It needs more room. There it is. I can make it back. There it is. Maybe one more. There it is. The trader has arrived at the decision point. The future hasn't been decided yet. Chapter 13. The goal is earlier awareness. This kind of training requires a different definition of progress. At first, the trader may only recognize the pattern after the mistake. Then, during it, then, a few seconds before. Then, at the first sentence, the emotional thought may still appear. The urge may still be strong. The trader may still negotiate. And sometimes, the trader may still make the mistake, but awareness is moving, earlier, closer to the beginning. And that's worth studying, because the trader who says, "I don't know what happened, I just moved my stop," has very little information to work with. But the trader who says, "The stop approached, I felt uncomfortable. Then I heard myself think, it needs more room. I noticed I was beginning to negotiate," has identified a sequence. There is now a decision point, a place where a different response can eventually be trained. This isn't about lowering the standard. The rule still matters. The stop still needs to be respected. The random trade still needs to be avoided. The trading window still matters. But perhaps lasting behavioral change begins by understanding how the mind arrives at the rule break. Because if the trader can learn to recognize the road, the trader may eventually stop traveling all the way to the end of it. Chapter 14. One measurable goal, perhaps for the next month or the next 6 months. A trader could have one measurable goal. Not, "I will never make another emotional trading mistake." Not, "I will be perfectly disciplined." Not even, "I will stop every emotional thought." Just this: how many times today did I catch myself at the beginning of a negotiation? 1, 3, 5? Perhaps none. The number isn't a score of whether the trader is good or bad. It is information. What was the situation? What was the first sentence? Which rule became negotiable? Did the trader recognize the pattern before or after the action? Over time, the trader may begin building a completely different kind of trading journal. Not only a record of trades, a record of decision points. The trader begins learning, "This is where I become vulnerable. This is the sentence I usually hear. This is the emotion underneath it. This is where my process usually begins to change." And with enough repetition, the trader may no longer be surprised by the pattern. The thought appears, and the trader recognizes it. The situation develops, and the trader recognizes it. The negotiation begins, and the trader recognizes it. There it is. The trader has seen this pattern before. Final thoughts. Traders spend years learning to recognize patterns in the market. They study what happens before a breakout, before a reversal, before momentum expands, before a trend develops. They don't wait until the entire move is complete and then begin studying it. They learn to recognize the beginning. Perhaps emotional decision-making deserves the same attention. A moved stop has a beginning. A random entry has a beginning. Revenge trading has a beginning. Overtrading has a beginning. The extra trade has a beginning. The exception to the trading plan has a beginning. And sometimes, The beginning is only a sentence. Just this once. It needs more room. I can make it back. This looks good enough. Maybe one more? The trader doesn't need to panic when the sentence appears. The trader doesn't need to fight the mind. The first job is simpler. Notice it. There it is. Recognize the situation. Recognize the sentence. Recognize the beginning of the negotiation. Because the rule break may be the end of the pattern, but the decision started earlier. And perhaps the trader's next level of discipline doesn't begin with trying harder after another mistake. Perhaps it begins with learning to see the mistake while it is still forming. So tomorrow, instead of asking only, "Did I follow every rule?" perhaps the trader can also ask, "How many times did I catch the beginning?" Because awareness can arrive after. Awareness can arrive during. Awareness can arrive before. And with enough practice, awareness can begin arriving at the beginning. Every trading mistake has a beginning, and the earlier a trader learns to recognize it, the more opportunity there is to make a different decision. If this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Is there a thought or sentence you often hear right before you begin negotiating with one of your trading rules? Maybe it's just this once. The stop needs more room. Or maybe one more trade. I'd love to hear what you've noticed in your own trading. If you know another trader who might benefit from this video, consider sharing it with them. And if you'd like more videos about trading psychology, professional decision-making, and becoming the trader you want to become, consider subscribing. Because trading is not only a journey of learning the markets, it's also a journey of learning to recognize the patterns within ourselves before they become decisions.